Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Eliana Kernodle. School choice has been an ongoing discussion in Pennsylvania, and a plan for school vouchers made some progress this week. Joining me to tell us more is the Center Square's Pennsylvania editor, Kristen Smith. Kristen, what is this plan and what's the background on it?
Sure. So this is a plan that has been authored by Senate Republicans, and it would spend $100 million to fund private school tuition and other educational expenses for students who are living in the bottom 15% of school districts in Pennsylvania. And the way that the bottom 15% is calculated is based on standardized test scores. So these are students who are, bound by attendance zones to go to a school that has struggled to reach the academic benchmarks set by the state. And so this has historically been a problem, and the state has dealt with it traditionally by giving more money to these schools that are really struggling. And that has been enhanced in the last few years by an additional formula that weights a school district's economic factors and other challenges they might be facing in order to give them more money than, say, a district with a wealthier tax base with less challenges. So the idea here with school vouchers is that proponents of it believe that this is yet another way to help those families who, because of where they live, have to attend schools that are historically struggling. And these people as well, they cannot just pick up and move outside of the attendance zone for these schools. A lot of them, this is a community that they've been in for generations, or that this is the community they can afford to be in. And they can't just uproot their whole lives to go find a home in a quote unquote better school district that may be completely unaffordable, especially with our real estate market as it is right now. So this is what school vouchers, means for Pennsylvania and what the legislature is currently debating. The history of it is a little bit more complex in the sense that this most recent proposal was introduced last year, and it was something that Governor Josh Shapiro had even given input to, had helped craft. And he was on board with getting it passed as part of our last budget right up until the 11th hour. The problem is that House Democrats, and Democrats historically for the most part, do not support school vouchers because they believe it is an unconstitutional diversion of taxpayer dollars to private schools. Their belief, and strongly held belief, is that our money could be better spent on public schools, that we can redo our formula as we've been told to do by the state Supreme Court, that we could better invest in these schools that need it so that we're not just throwing money at the problem, but that it's a more targeted approach to the problem. So, that's where the line has been. Shapiro, at the end of the day, did not go against Democrats in the House. He eventually, he said, basically, he's like, I support school vouchers, but if you can't get me a bill, then it's on you. You can't get me a bill. So that's where things were left late last year. And then the proposal and school choice, while always there, always in the minds and hearts of its supporters, so to speak, it really wasn't, top of mind. It wasn't getting a lot of discussion until now. It has emerged from hibernation. We're a month before budget season kicks off in earnest. And now is about the time that you're going to see these big landmark policy issues kind of come into the forefront. So you can get a preview of what lawmakers are really going to want to deal with before the end of the fiscal year on June 30th.
So then what has been kind of the dynamics in the legislature surrounding this now that it's reemerged as a plan?
So, as I was saying before, historically, Democrats are very resistant to school vouchers. However, that historical position has been changing. Now it's not a large amount of Democrats. It's a few here and there, particularly the ones who live in the school districts that are most impacted by this issue. So that's a lot of school districts in southeastern Pennsylvania, in and around Philly, also in southwestern Pennsylvania, in and around Pittsburgh. These are the areas that have a lot of issues with their schools reaching these academic targets and with students falling behind in math and reading. And so for those lawmakers, they are growing frustrated, and the status quo is not working. And even the idea of just spending more money seems to be inadequate to help address this problem. And so one of those lawmakers, Senator Tony Williams, he's from Philadelphia, He's been on the side of school choice for several years now. This is not certainly a new position for him. However, he's grown more and more zealous over the years as the problem gets worse and the division gets worse and the disagreement gets worse. I mean, and Governor Josh Shapiro said this himself, that essentially the chambers and the parties are, talking past each other, and they just can't set down their ideological torches for 1 minute in order to come together on this, because the idea or the agreement here is that children are falling behind in schools, and how can this be fixed? So, Senator Williams believes that this is one of the ways it can be fixed. It's not the only way. It doesn't mean that public schools don't need more money too, but to turn a nose up at school vouchers just because of, the idea that it's going to give money to private schools, that he's saying we need to reconsider that at some point. The good here outweighs the bad. Now, there's also a couple Democratic lawmakers in the House who are on the side of school vouchers too. Now, there's, sources have said that some Democratic lawmakers fear retribution for being public about that. There's been rumors, although they are unconfirmed, that there's been threats that if they come out against the party on it, that they could lose staff, or they could, have certain committee demotions. But if that is the case, if that isn't truly the atmosphere of this discussion, still, there are state reps that are on the record as saying they would support it. So why that matters in the House is because it's a 2-vote split and Democrats are in charge. So even just like a couple defectors, as it were, could make this school voucher program happen. And then Shapiro would have to follow through and sign it, which there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts about it. But it's definitely setting itself up for a round 2 of a very contentious debate.
And where is the legislation at in the process as of right now?
It just passed through the Senate, so that means that it has to go to the House for consideration. So the House will put it through committee, the Education Committee, and then they'll kick it out to the floor where it'll be open for amendments. Then it will be considered on third and final. It would have to pass, and then off to the governor's desk it goes. So we have a long way to go. Now, getting through that Senate hump is important, but it would be widely seen as the easier of the 2 hurdles to clear because Republicans have a comfortable majority in the Senate. So it has an uphill battle. But like I said, there's those dynamics in play that mean it's not necessarily, dead in the water.
Well, thank you, Kristen, for your insights on this story. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.
Attention parents, teachers, and taxpayers. Do you care about the decisions being made in K-12 public education? Do you want to know how those decisions impact your students and school district? Chalkboard News has you covered. We're delivering fact-based reporting on the policies that shape school safety, curriculum, and recovery from learning loss. At Chalkboard News, we're cutting through the politics and focusing on the facts behind the issues impacting students, teachers, and families. Get this news delivered to your inbox for free by signing up at chalkboardnews.com.